Good day and thanks for joining us once more on CRTV News. You are watching a sit down with the new director of the National School of Local Administration, Nasla, which is headquartered in Boya in the Southwest region. It's a new institution that was created on March 2 by President Paul Biya in the heart of a string of measures to speed up the decentralization process. Nasla popped in, and to most Cameroonians, they still don't understand exactly what this school is all about. So I am seizing this opportunity to talk with its chief, Mr. Enow Tanyitikuh Bayee. Good day and welcome to CRTV News.
Good day, Mr. Muta.
If we just had to ask you summarily, what is Nasla? What would you tell the ordinary Cameroonian?
Well, that Nasla is the institution created by the government to train in the specialties of local government, as the creating instrument says.
Okay. What, in your opinion, is the state of local administration as it is today in Cameroon? Is local administration good, bad, or work in progress, or nothing has been done?
I would say it's at a turning point. Okay. With the present context, the importance of local administration, or rather say local development, I think that with the acceleration and deepening of decentralization, as rightly said by the head of state, I would say local administration or local development is at a turning point.
Well, judging from the installation of the managerial team that took place in Boya a couple of weeks ago, and the appointment of the new board chair, who was also commissioned on that same day, we can safely say the team is being set up. That is what we are seeing on national media, but lots of other things are being done backstage. How far with that setting up?
Well, I think that on the administrative side of things, the team is set up. The board, in its first meeting on the 18th, proceeded with the appointments of the senior officials of the school. So on that, like we say, the team is set up. The board also approved all the administrative instruments, financial instruments for setting up the school. So as of now, I think we are largely ready to go.
Well, we learned in the course of our, preparing this interview, that the budget of Nasla should be at about 2.3 billion, whereas we know that the budget of the National School of Administration and Magistracy is somewhere around 4 billion. Why that huge discrepancy? Are we still paying much attention to the central structure or to the decentralized structure?
Well, I think that we are at the takeoff point for Nasla. I think this question requires an explanation. Nasla was created on the ashes of CFAM, which had a budget that was adopted by its board of directors before the decree creating Nasla came out. Subsequently, when Nasla was created, we made a request to the Prime Minister, head of government, for emergency funding to start off the school. And the Prime Minister authorized a budget of 1.7 billion, both in terms of running expenditure and emergency expenditure. Now, of this 1.7 billion, 470 million was for emergency investment. And the Ministry of the Economy has already made available 333 million of the 470 million. Of the 1.3 billion expected of the Ministry of Finance, we haven't received it yet, but the latest information we had at the time of preparing the board from our interaction with the Ministry of Finance was that the projection was that they will make available an amount of 450 million. So technically, what the financial expert advised us to do was to take the budget of the former CFAM, at least the part that had not been executed yet by the management of the former CFAM, and the resources that were certain for Nasla, and put them together, and it is this combination that put us at 2.3 billion.
Are you saying that this is going to increase?
Well,
you hope so.
I very fervently hope so, because if we take the the requirements of setting up a school like Nasla in Boya. I'll give you a small example. If we have to attract teaching staff to Boya, and if we need them from somewhere far like Yaoundé, it means the expenditure you need for the teaching staff to leave Yaoundé, come to Boya, spend a few days, teach the course, and come back to Yaoundé, be it in terms of transportation, in terms of lodging, and in terms of paying for the teaching. I think comfortably, I can comfortably say that double or triple what you will require to teach in the same kind of institution around Yaoundé. Just from this perspective, I think we would at least need to have a similar amount in resources, if not more, because our particular situation imposes on us a number of expenses that the others wouldn't have.
Let's talk about the curricula. Obviously, you guys are setting up a training program at this stage. Does it take into account, for example, people who are already working in councils?
Yes, it does. In fact, in our curriculum development exercise, we send out a team to a sample of councils from all regions. Because of the pandemic that was at its peak at the moment, we couldn't cover all the councils. So we did a training needs analysis and we assessed their needs. At the same time, with the institution, that is the organization of cities and towns of Cameroon, we also had exchange with them. So they made their needs known to us. And this was crafted into our curriculum development program, alongside all the other research and studies that have been done by governments on the same in the same domain. So I think I'm comfortable to say that we took this into consideration.
Okay, what is the profile of a typical teacher who can teach in Nasla, and maybe a typical student who can come into Nasla?
I'll start with the profile of a typical teacher. Our ambition is to have professionals who will do theory, but also a lot of practice. Who will impart knowledge that they have gained from their day-to-day experience. We are training people to be immediately operational. We are training them to be problem solvers. In that regard, we need them to be trained by those who exercise or who solve those problems on a daily basis. So I think that the typical profile of a Nasla teacher will be a professional, skilled in his domain, both grounded in theory, but above all in practice. For the typical student now, well, we have the opportunity of having an initial training cycle, cycle A, cycle B, and cycle C, where we will recruit first degree holders, advanced level holders, ordinary level holders, both from the Francophone subsystem and the Anglophone subsystem, because Nasla is a national school, and we will train for the councils all over the country. So I think that will be fine-tuned in the instrument that launches the entrance exam, but in principle, the typical student will be every interested student who meets the minimum requirements.
Well, I guess almost everybody at this stage is looking forward to that entrance exam. I'm not going to ask when it will take place at this stage. But then we know that the two English-speaking regions have a special status. Do you guys factor that into your training programs?
Yes. I will still permit myself to address the question that you asked without asking about the entrance exam. I think that it is important that the school, having been created at the beginning of the year, that before the year runs out, we should have an entrance exam. But that also depends on the resources made available to us to have the entrance exam. Because it will not serve any purpose to have an entrance exam if you cannot accommodate the students in the minimal conditions that permit for good learning. It will not be good to start the school on, I don't know the English equivalent, I'll use French. Frenchman says au rabais, because it will not be the good thing to do. So it is important that we have the resources, and it's also important that the school, having been created by the head of state this year, that by the end of the year we should have an entrance exam. And so we are making all efforts on our part to be ready. And we are expecting all other actors to make the efforts on their part so that we are all ready for the entrance exam at the end of the year. Now, coming to the second part of your question, which was on the special status.
On the special status.
Of course. I think that it will be, our training will be incomplete if we didn't factor in the special status, because it creates a number of, I don't want to say discrepancies, but differences.
Peculiarities.
Peculiarities, specificities. And that's why it is a special status. So while we would have training that addresses itself to all the councils, we will also have courses that address the issue of the special status. It is indispensable.
I know that critics of the decentralization process are afraid that we may move from a situation where we have strong men in Yaoundé to now having strong men in local councils. How can we avoid that?
Well, I will say that if I were to choose between strong men in Yaoundé and strong men in local councils, I will choose strong men in local councils. For the simple reason that strong men in Yaoundé are very often appointed officials who wield this much power without a direct knowledge of what the needs are of the people at the local level. While strong men at the local level will most certainly be elected, which means they are answerable. And so if their quote-unquote strength is detrimental at the local level, there is a mechanism to sanction them, which is an election, which depends on the local people, which is what you don't have if you have quote-unquote strong men at the central level.
Who are untouchable.
Who are untouchable. So I will take any day strong men at the local level.
Okay, finally, let's part on this. Do you feel Nasla can remotely or even indirectly play any role in appeasing the sociopolitical context in the northwest and southwest regions?
Oh yes, I think so. I think that, first of all, the creation of the school in Boya by the head of state was not an accident. I consider it as telegraphing a political message. At the same time, if the head of state has himself chosen decentralization as one of the answers to the current socio-political crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, and Nasla is an instrument of a more efficient decentralization. By simple analogy, it makes Nasla an instrument in resolving the social economic. And I think that it's very important that everybody should know. The importance of the school is not only in terms of academics. The Nasla has a very important role to play politically. And I always remind my people I meet of this political importance. At the same time, I also want to say it has an important role to play politically, nationally. That's why it's a national school. The danger, and I've heard from many people, is to consider the school as a regional school, as an exclusive answer to the socio-political situation in Northwest and South region. It is, but not only. It is also an answer to the general
regional
aspirations.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Enow Tanyitikuh Bayee, Director General of the National School of Local Administration, for talking to CRTV News.
Thank you. It was a privilege.
Thank you.